was wrong. These are the good mics, so you don't have to get right close to just a reasonable distance. Apparently, I was distorting because I was talking about this. But those were the old mics.
I want to make sure you're well.
Whoa. In your former career, right? That's right.
Is it not clear?
Just checking. It shows.
Our lights aren't on yet, or I'd start.
Did you turn it on?
Okay, button on it to turn it on, okay. It's 5:30, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we need a motion to approve the April 7th, 2025 monthly workshop agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any conversation? Okay, all in favor, show of hands, please. Thank you. Okay, up first, we have some presentations tonight. I'm gonna do our first introduction. First one will be from the AMA APS SOAR partnership.
Good evening.
Justin.
My name is Justin Glusing. I'm the superintendent for the AMA ESD. With me this evening is Ashley Peterson, one of my special ed supervisors. And as you are aware, APS has operated the SOAR room program at Ella White for the last 2 years. And over this current school year, we've spent a lot of time meeting with Dr. Rabideau and Stacey Moores from your staff, along with Ashley from my staff and others, to discuss the transition of the AMA ESD taking over that program. To do that, we need to navigate through a program agreement, which is what you have in front of you today to review and act on at your regular meeting later this month. This agreement will have to be approved by all of the local boards of education. We'll have to amend our special education plan once we have all of the individual board approvals, so not just APS, but Hillman, Atlanta, and Alcona as well. And we're working through that and coming here this evening, for example, just to touch base on some highlights from the agreement. And then between now and your regular meeting, if you have additional questions, we can, of course, follow up on those and get you the information that you need. The way to look at it is the revised school code allows local districts like APS and our other locals to contract with ISDs, their ISD partners like AMA, to operate special ed programming. So as we do with Pied Piper that all of you are familiar with, where some of your students and other students from other locals come there, it's a similar sort of relationship in terms of how we would transition to take over the SOAR room program at Ella White. A couple things to highlight is, and I do want to extend my thanks to Dr. Rabideau and of course Stacey Moores for all of their work, along with Ashley behind the scenes. What we've also agreed to is, as we move through this next year, provided we get all of the approvals, we've agreed really to work hand in hand as we work through this transition. The program will remain at Ella White, where it's currently located. AMA will take over the employment of the staff that will work in that room. But that transition isn't as simple as just, here you go, it's all yours, take over. We know because it remains in the Ella White building, continuing to work together collaboratively to navigate things like state testing requirements and just other operational details. We know and we feel living through the program and making sure that we stay in close communication with APS staff and work side by side with the building staff is critical really in this transition year. So we're looking forward to that partnership as we move forward. Just talking through some of the cost arrangements within program agreement document, each local district would be responsible for the unreimbursed costs for their individual students. So if Alcona does send a student, or Hillman, or Atlanta, and obviously APS, they would be responsible for the unreimbursed costs. These costs are similar to how we operate actually Pied Piper, so it's not very different. We work through what we call our payout each year using some Act 18 funds, and we would simply deduct those costs from those funds before we send out those revenues to each of the local districts. There's obviously a lot of details also happening behind the scenes. Assuming we're able to move forward with the program and we have all the sign-offs from the boards and we get our plan amended, as we look ahead, we hope to evaluate and consider some options for renovating the space. So some of you I know have visited Pied Piper, where we've gone through a renovation of that space over this past summer. It's been a tremendous upgrade there, and we see that there's a potential for that opportunity as well for the existing classroom where the SOAR room is and the adjacent spaces nearby. We're still evaluating that, and as we move forward, we hope to come back with some ideas that we would again present to APS and all of you about how we might improve those spaces as we move forward together in this partnership. With that, I guess I would also open it up to Stacy or Ashley if you have any thoughts or comments you'd like to share of the work you guys have done. Or
Just appreciate the partnership that we've had the last several months, why we've been planning this, and just want to work together for our students and make sure that we're providing the same opportunities for students to transition back into their classrooms when they're ready and back to their home schools. So it's just been a really good partnership, and I look forward to continuing the partnership and supporting all the students' needs. So thank you.
I know you might have not have had the opportunity to review the document completely, but happy to come back at any time at the next meeting or your regular meeting, I should say, or between now and then, of course, field any questions and respond to whatever your concerns might be.
Was this on in the agenda? Did I miss that? Was all this in the?
No, I shared it with you in the superintendent update, so you got an electronic copy, and then just because it's a legal document in draft mode, just passed it out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so again, would take action at the April meeting, which gives us time to ask any questions, go through that, have Justin address anything along those lines. I would like to echo Stacy's comments. I think it was about, how long have you been at AMA now? Is this your third year?
Third year, yeah.
So I think it was your first year when I had addressed the board and the community. Prior to you being there, there's always been a misalignment between AMA and APS, and I just remember saying I'm excited to have Justin be taking over AMA because he understands APS, and that I had looked forward to a new era, so to speak, and really thank you, because you have been very responsive to the needs of not only APS but all the other districts, and this is a huge step forward in our relationship of partnering together on a program that is desperately needed, not just in APS, but all across AMA and well beyond those boundaries as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the King Scott Facility Master Plan Development.
And
Dave?
yeah.
Can I interrupt before they start? I didn't get your update.
No.
Because I
Did you
looked
get
at,
it?
Did you, Eric or Sarah? Okay, I looked at lunchtime today to look
Yeah, I
over
sent
the.
it out Sunday.
Okay,
yesterday.
yeah, I didn't see anything from you.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
got internet back like on Thursday, so I was getting no emails at all.
Yeah. I'll resend it.
Okay,
It
yeah,
might
if
not
it's-
have gone through, I didn't get a message, but, so you can print it up and take a look at it there.
But we can take this home and review it.
Yeah, and just keep it close if you would,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it, sorry.
And, you know, just a reminder, this is a workshop, so these are really not presentations, but that's how because we're combining multiple meetings in this agenda, so it is supposed to be a workshop and dialogue and all of that, not simply a presentation, so. With that,
Yes,
I will
yes.
turn it over to Rob Atkins and his team to talk about our master planning process that we brought up, I think at the last month's meeting or something, talking about facilities use studies and all of that. Had some further conversation with everyone, and so they're
Yeah.
here to kind of talk about what it might look like more specifically to APS.
All right, well, thank you for having us, and we're going to start off with introductions. So my name's Rob Atkins. I'm the president of King, Scott & Associates. We are an A&E consulting firm. We specialize in educational work. We've been doing this over 90 years, so we've been at this quite a while. When I had my first discussion with Dr. Rabidow, I learned a lot, and you know, being from up north, I do remember Alpena back in the 70s and 80s. They were a big rival of my home district, which was Marquette in the UP, and let's just say we didn't fare well in hockey when we came down here. But with that said, you guys have been dealing with some issues as it relates to enrollment, and so we're going to highlight our approach to master planning once we learned a lot about your district. But before I get into that, I'm going to turn over to Laura. Let Laura introduce herself.
Hello, I am Laura Kasai. I am a project director with Kingscott, and I've spent, gosh, over 20 years designing learning spaces for students. So that's really my passion, is thinking in a way that really services the learner. So I'm grateful to be here.
And also, this whole effort, we put this together with Clark Construction. Clark is the one CM in the state that we do the most K-12 work with, so that was another reason we really look forward to this opportunity. So I'll let you guys know the Clark folks, but I'll still let Craig and Fred introduce themselves.
So my name is Fred Gagne. I'm the regional manager for Clark Construction, the Alpena office, also project director, so oversee all operations in northern Michigan and work really close with our Lansing and other offices for our pre-construction capacities. So thank you for being.
I'm Craig Frogat with Clark Construction. Got a little got a little cold going on. The house was cold the last couple days, as we all know. Bond campaign specialist. I wear several hats. I do customer care. I do business development. I do ribbon cuttings. You know, several hats within my toolbox, I'll say. I am a product of Black Friday, 1981. So I am a Wildcat, born and raised here in Alpena, and look forward to assist King Scott with this project.
Okay, so let's get into it. I welcome any questions from the board as we go through this. We can certainly have a discussion as we go, but what we're going to do is provide kind of a high-level overview of what we're recommending as an approach to a facility master plan that really tackles the declining enrollment that you've been experiencing for quite some time now, and also how does that translate to financial stability within the district as it relates to how you operate and maintain your facilities. Our goal is to develop a 10-year facility master plan. So this is really looking now and beyond in the future. And we want to really address long-term facility, efficiencies, and also really stay in alignment with your educational goals. So, and you'll hear more about that throughout this. But I wanted to start with, here's what we know. This was interesting. I look back in 73, 74 school year, that's when enrollment was the highest for Alpena Public Schools. And since then, you've been on a steady decline in enrollment. And since that school year, your enrollment's decreased about 62%, which is quite the decrease in enrollment. And I know this is no surprise to anyone. The district has certainly had to respond to this. You guys have gone through building closures, which is a very difficult thing, and you've also repurposed buildings. I know in 21, I think it was, yeah, you were also considering consolidating operations. So this has been an issue that you've been dealing with for quite some time, and we understand that. Just to kind of maybe state the obvious, maybe not, but when it comes to declining enrollment, a lot of the funding you get for operations through the per pupil allocation, as you decline in students, that definitely affects your budgets, your fiscal budgets. So this is a big issue, and it's very important to plan this in a way that everyone can get behind. So this is a tall task we have. Another thing, this isn't really unusual to Alpena. We work all over the state, and I found this information from Crane's Detroit Business, and this is something they did a couple years ago, but they did a study and from really looking at from 2009 to 2023, 80% of all the school districts in Michigan have experienced declining enrollment. I can tell you for King Scott, majority of our clients are dealing with declining enrollment or very flat enrollment. And actually the districts that are flat, that's a good thing. You know, that very few of our clients are dealing with, you know, any dramatic increase in enrollment. So this isn't an issue just unusual to you, but it's definitely an issue. So really, the need for this 10-year strategic facility master plan, obviously declining enrollment, but really right-sizing the district and district facilities, and what are all the options that we can explore with the community on how to right-size the district, and really to help provide a strategic roadmap, but also really provide a roadmap to stay fiscally healthy, fiscally responsible in the years to come. And we're definitely going to do a 10-year outlook. The other thing is we believe in transparency in a process, and we believe in heavy collaboration. So we are going to welcome as much of the community that's willing to work with us to go through this planning process that we're presenting to you tonight. And that community trust and community involvement is really the cornerstone of our process. And we've had a lot of success. Educational planning is a big thing in what we do, and we're always dealing with tough community issues when we're doing planning efforts. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura, and she's going to get into a little more detail into our process.
And thanks, Rob. And for us, you know, it really begins and ends with people, right? So we begin by looking at demographics, analyzing people. Where are they? What are the demographics telling us? We look at historic enrollment trends. We look at projections. Oh, the podium.
I'm sorry. Just helps with streaming.
Yeah, oh, that's okay. We look at projections, and then, you know, we go into really analyzing the facility. And, you know, as folks who have to make, you know, complex decisions, we really want to help you in terms of analyzing all of the facets that are available. So when we look at buildings, we're really looking at them in terms of the capacity, right? So how can the buildings adapt over time? You know, it's more than just you know, this building should support this many students, or that building should support that many students. It's really about how we're able to transform those buildings in service of your ultimate goals. So we're looking at things like the site, the area around the building. We're looking at even systems and infrastructure, how the building was constructed initially. Believe it or not, there are some ways of constructing buildings that are easier to transform than others. So we're really looking at the holistic picture for you, because we know that they're complex decisions that you have to make. So, and really for us, you know, we're looking for opportunities. Wherever there are complex variables, there's also opportunities. So if you can kind of imagine the Venn diagram, right, we're looking for where all of the circles overlap. We're looking for opportunities in terms of facility needs, infrastructure needs, where that might overlap with educational program needs that you might have, and then financial responsibilities. So really it's that sweet spot of opportunity that we want to bring forward, and that's how we maintain our fiscal responsibility and sustainability, by really looking for those opportunities of overlap. And again, for us, it begins and ends with people, and we really pride ourselves in keeping the student at the forefront of our mind as we go through this process. So within our organization, there are 3 phases. Our discovery phase, this is really where we're doing most of our data collection. This is our foundation. We're speaking with people, we're assessing the buildings, we're doing all of that foundational work in that discovery phase. The exploration phase is really when we're looking at scenarios. And I use the plural there because we never just come with one scenario. There are always multiple options that we bring forward and have discussions about. And then finally, the master plan is the final outcome of the process. And again, for us, it's all about the people. So we engage folks in a myriad of different ways. In the beginning of the process, that might look a lot like us listening. So really hearing from each group and understanding where they're coming from. Sort of in the middle of the process, that might look more like active engagement, really kind of co-creating and co-authoring solutions together. And then toward the end of the process, it's more of an informing our groups of stakeholders. And we know that we want to make sure that the board is informed at every step along the way as well. So again, just kind of expanding on those 2 phases that I began with, the discovery phase, that's really where we're going to look at projections and demographics, understanding the people. We're going to look at the facilities and the site capacity and analyze really what you have going on right now in the district and how that might work in your favor. And then stakeholders, stakeholder interviews and focus groups in that discovery phase. And that's really going to be focused in the spring of this year. And then the exploration phase, again, master planning scenarios. We'll develop multiple scenarios, community workshops, financial outcomes, and operational efficiencies. And then, of course, keep the board updated toward June of this year. We want to take advantage of the fact that we have folks in place here while school is still in session, and focus on our work over the summer, and then report back in the fall, where we're going to deliver our master plan, and it'll really wrap up by the end of November. So that's basically the structure.
So Laura just touched on, we're going to be looking at a lot of things. So obviously enrollment projections are going to be important, but we're also going to be looking and talking with local real estate people, the big challenge for Alpena Public is the amount of area your district covers is huge. You're one of the largest districts in the state as far as land area goes. And that is certainly a challenge, and we understand that. We want to get a sense of where is the development, where is future development maybe being targeted, so we're also looking at that part of it throughout your district. So we're going to be gathering as much data as we can to really get a holistic view of what's happening within your school district as far as growth goes and where your population is. Laura touched on the facility assessments and how we're going to look at your facilities, determine the capacity for change, and really develop the foundational information to come up with a lot of different district-wide scenarios to consider. It's all about alignment. It's all about being aligned with your vision, with your educational programming, but also being aligned with the community's values as well. Your community is going to have a big say in how the direction the district goes, and creating that alignment with the community is going to be absolutely key. So that's, the stakeholder input, I can't stress that enough. We are really going to seek out as much input and opinions. We want to hear everything, the fears, but also look at the opportunities potentially as well. So, like Laura said, we approach it by coming up with as many scenarios as we can, and then we work with our community stakeholders to consider those. And what are all the boxes we need to check in order to address the big issues the district is facing? So yeah, school consolidations, grade reconfigurations, building closures, repurposing. Also, looking at everything, what are the financial and operational savings you can expect with each scenario we develop? That's going to be a really important piece, which is why we have partnered with Clark as part of this master planning effort. Their pre-bond group is second to none, and they are very good at projecting future costs of projects and that, so they will be key in this whole process. So I'm going to turn it over to the.
My slide.
I know, I tried not to get through.
So yes, the pre-bond, excuse me, the pre-con, not pre-bond services, pre-con, so pre-construction services. You'll see that we have, actually, this slide says 18. We now have 19 professionals. And that's all they do is estimating, okay? They do numbers all day long. They're talking to vendors. They're talking to supply houses. They are watching the market as it goes up or down. And I think David could probably, I'm going to share a story that David and I last July 4th. We're in the 4th of July parade here in Alpena, and we're at the fairgrounds. And David's in line with APS going out, and I'm in line with my float over here, and he comes running over and he shakes my hand and says, "What's wrong with you people?" And I'm like, "What's wrong? Happy 4th of July." He goes, "You gave us money back." Yeah, that's what we do. We're construction managers. So we manage. It says, Clark Construction, but truly we're managers. We're your partner. We're your construction arm within this building. Simon's got his office. Well, we kind of have an imaginary office right next door. So what we'll do is we'll support King Scott with escalation, contingencies. If, and I say if loud, if it's that a building needs to be demoed, we'll cost estimate that, right? Clearly, if that's the plan. And again, it's 10 years out. We'll be there every step of the way to put a number to it with these professionals. Can't say if it's Bill Cox, but Bill has history with Simon, with David, with Mary. Most likely would be Bill Cox. He's out of Petoskey. He's a senior estimator. Works hand in hand with King Scott every day. Very knowledgeable, very talented. With that, Fred.
So what did you leave for me? So, as Craig mentioned, our pre-con team, that's all they really do is look at markets, numbers, budgeting. They estimate somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 million a year in construction. They're very good at predicting what the escalation is going to be, and they do that really well because they don't just take a number and apply it to everything in a construction project. Different parts of the project escalate differently. Steel might escalate different than concrete, so they use that as a tool to accurately predict what the numbers are going to be, and we maintain a history, years of history of what the costs have been doing. So great people. Most of them are conceptual estimators. So in this scenario where we're going to be working with, what does this look like? What do you think this is going to be? In the business, we call it napkin sketches. And so you don't have a lot of details where I'm going with that. And they're able to take that, I'll call it lack of detail, but then produce an estimate that will support those projects in the future. So that's what we're going to do with Rob and Laura.
Yeah, and they're very good, and we're very good at communicating the intent of what we're trying to do to help their estimators. So, it's really about, this whole effort is really about creating a sustainable future for Alpena Public Schools. And we really got to find synthesis. In other words, we've got to take all the data that we get together and really assess, and then put together solutions, and then get community input and really get a lot of community feedback along with school stakeholders as well. you know, everybody's input is welcome. Our goal is to come up with recommendations for this 10-year plan, because something like this, you're not gonna do all in one shot. It's gonna be over a period of time. What does that time look like? We're gonna find out. And what does that involve? So we'll come up with recommendations as part of the facility master plan, and then also get into the implementation, because it'll most likely take time, like everything. Just to touch on timeline and key milestones, basically, we're looking with the board's approval to get started this month and really start our data collection, that discovery phase, working and then starting in May and June. As we collect data, we will start to engage stakeholders, community members, and then look to do a board update in June, just to let you know how things are going, what are some of the things that are starting to come out in the process, and then spending the remainder of the summer and early fall really considering scenarios and getting as much feedback. Give, you know, the board, school stakeholders, and the community time to process the different scenarios, time to explore, and time to ask questions. And we want to do that summer, fall, with the goal of presenting a 10-year facility master plan at your October board meeting, and then getting final board comments and looking to finalize in November. So we're looking at really a 6-month process, with the 7th and 8th month finalizing the master plan. So I know you guys have a full agenda tonight. We tried to keep this brief, but at least give you a sense of how we're approaching it. I want to thank you for the time, and I'll open it up to questions to the board. Any questions? Yes, sir.
No. So do I understand correctly, then you would be making public some of these scenarios sometime in the summer so that community discussion could begin at that point, or would that be later?
Well, the update in June will give you an update on the progress we're making. We may at that point be ready to share at least things that we're considering with the community. Like I said, we'll be very transparent, and the quicker we get our data collection to where we can then spend time with the community, the better. And June might be an update of, here's what we're exploring and here's what we're hearing. You know, that sort of thing. And we just targeted June because it'll be the end of the school year, and we thought that would be a good time to update the board. We can certainly do additional updates as we move forward, but hopefully that answers your question.
Well,
so we'll see.
What I'm getting at is I want to know how much time there is for some of these scenarios to be considered by the community, and then maybe for you all to get input on that even before it comes to the board.
Yeah.
I mean, which is maybe that's not the right process, but it would seem to me that's one possibility.
Yeah, what I told Dr. Rabidow is we like to come and at least give you an update, even when we're in the middle of it, because we think there's value there. With us not starting yet, and I'm not quite sure where we'll be in June, but those months of July, August, September, those 3 months is where a lot of the community back and forth is really going to happen, along with school stakeholders. And we're going to try to get a lot of input from the district as well before school gets out too. So, yeah, I hope I'm answering your question, but yes.
I've got a better idea, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How much is it costing us to do this?
So we provided a proposal, and for the services we just described for the master plan, it's just over $20,000. I believe it's like $20,500 for about a 6 to 7 month process.
And when we looked at it back in March, I think it included a lot more components.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you needed a full facility assessment update, which would be a big effort. But no, you guys already have a lot of information on your facilities. So we're going to take full advantage of that, and we did not see the need to do a full facility assessment.
And so if you're interested, because I wanted them to come present and talk about the process if you're interested in moving forward. Obviously, we'd hammer out the details, have them available for you. You know, and with this past week, it's very possible we may want to make that decision at the May board meeting versus April, and then we just adjust those timelines accordingly. But this is them sharing what this would actually look like. It is a little bit different because we're not doing that deep facility assessment look, since we've gone through that with all the bond work. So it's more on that imagining discovery of what do you do with a district spread over 604 square miles.
Any other questions?
How does do you host, was it town halls that you host for the community input, or do you just throw a cup of coffee on a table and say, let's have a conversation with whoever wants to stop?
Rob does like coffee.
I do.
He's
I also like donuts. So we do it a multiple ways. One thing for us, though, is we always like, if we're going to invite community and school stakeholders in, we want to make good use of their time. So we can certainly do forums. We can do any type of community meeting. We can even do small group meetings. We can meet with groups. For us is as we get to learn your community and who the different groups are, along with parents and that, we will work with you to come up with the best ways to engage, because for us, we want to engage as many people as possible. So it could be a series of small group meetings and larger forum meetings. We have found the most benefit with doing a number of small group meetings. People tend to share their views more freely when it's not in a big forum, let's say. But we can certainly execute forums. One thing that we do with a large forum is we will break everybody up into small groups so we get that small group input. So we do it in multiple ways. So it's not one specific way.
We recently did one with King Scott at Hillman Schools.
Yeah.
And it was a charrette, and we broke it into 6 different groups in the gymnasium, and we had 30 people show up, stakeholders, community members, et cetera, and it was well produced. Great value came out of it.
So even in a large group setting, we make it small. That's where we get our best feedback.
So if they did the facility condition assessment, it was about $32,000 for that portion of it. So the original estimate was $53,000. So we're cutting a significant portion off of that by just focusing.
Yeah, I mean, for your size district, you have a fair number of buildings, that's for sure, especially at the elementary level.
And since we'll be talking about the strategic plan a lot in the next one, you know, this obviously is part of our stewardship pillar and the long-term facilities planning. And then pulling in other pieces too is the educational environment and looking at what that looks like.
And we're available, you know, if you have other questions, please get them to Dr. Rabideau and we'll be happy to answer, but really appreciate your time tonight.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What door do we exit from?
You,
Well,
out the
depends
back,
on where-
probably.
Yeah, you can go out back.
Either way.
Dave,
Yeah.
can we pull Mary into this now?
Here we go.
Can we pull Mary into this?
Sure.
Just 28,000, 25?
About 21,000.
21,000?
Can you come up to the microphone though, Mary? Sorry. Just-
Sorry, my microphone's off too.
Hi.
So that's going to come out of the general fund? Is
Yeah.
that, do you feel that that would be a good use of the money to look long range, you know, $21,000, or are you kind of,
I know it seems like a lot of money,
That-
but we have
that's-
some very tough decisions to make, and I think if we have community input and support with everybody involved, I think it's a wise use.
okay. You just have the daily pulse on it, so
Yeah.
that's all.
Thanks, Mary.
I suppose long-term, you know, it's a big cost up front, but long-term, the cost savings to the district, if we do have to reduce buildings or whatever due to loss, is probably gonna more than make up for itself. Yeah, just even hate to talk about decreasing the footprint of the district, period, but it's a reality that we have to face, so.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, again, closing schools is not what I want to do. And so it really is looking at it differently. That's my goal. Because if we do, we're down to the bare bones, I think. You know, if we close one of the country schools, that's going to be an extreme hardship for the community that's out there. So I don't know that that's the answer. But maybe moving the students where they are and where they get the education amongst our, you know, footprint, I don't know. You know, so that's to get as many ideas as possible. Because I really don't think we can close any more buildings and still continue to provide a quality educational product. But we also know we can't keep going at this rate with declining enrollment, and so what do we do? That was sort of a circuitous answer of, it's why I'm reaching out to them, because they have experience in it. And again, bringing the community into that conversation is going to be huge.
Yeah, well, I would hope there's other solutions. Obviously, like you said, then closing schools, because you're right, like people out at Wilson or Hanks, there's just, I can't even imagine the bus rides they would have, but is there a way to think about the way you change the borders or structure a school? I mean, even you look at the small schools in the way, like the PE teachers floating between so many schools, like can you consolidate? Can you change schedules? Can you do something different to make that more effective? I'm not sure, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be pushing them to consider all of those options, because scheduling of teachers is an inefficiency. They spend a good portion of their week traveling. And then because they're not available in any one particular building the whole time, that building's ability to schedule is limited. And so, again, maybe it's not a building issue. Maybe it is a way we schedule, the way we transport, the way we, you know, have students, you know, near the teachers. I'm not sure, but I think there's a lot to explore there.
Okay.
Can we throw that on April so that they can get going?
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted. Again, with,
Let's kick it to May.
yeah, it's up to you. You know, if you're comfortable, we can have more conversation. I can provide the details, get the actual estimate fixed to what we're talking about. Provide that to you. And full disclosure, I got my superintendent update.
I did not.
Yeah, because I only emailed it to myself. Sorry about that. It's a two-step process. I blind copy the board, and then I email it to myself. Well, I only emailed it to myself, and I forgot to blind copy you. So, sorry. That's why you didn't get it. But anyway, so I can get you that information. We got, what, 2 weeks between now and the regular board meeting. So if you do have any questions, we could be ready, if you're ready, come the April regular meeting.
I think we can put it on.
Okay.
I think if we get to that point and we're not ready, we can just, you know, change it then.
Yeah.
But good to have it on there, so.
Yeah, and I think it's important to reiterate, this is looking at a 10-year plan. You know, we are strategically planning 2 to 3 years, like starting to envision that. Just because it's really hard to foresee budget-wise from the state beyond really the year that we've got. But we know we've got our financial reserves and we can predict staffing and those sorts of things. So we're reasonably comfortable looking 2 to 3 years ahead. But this is a very long-range plan. So it's not like we're looking at making these changes in that 2 to 3 year framework. Initiating them, starting down that pathway, yes. But we're not going to wake up one day and hear that a school's gone, or you know, your kids go to a different school, or things like that.
Now, have we looked at any of the epidemiology as far as, you know, we're losing student population since the 1970s, clearly. but have we seen with the incoming kindergartners, preschoolers, are we seeing that plateau at all, or do we anticipate a continued loss, considering taking out all external factors, school of choice, so on and so forth, but just looking at demographics?
Yeah.
Kind of what are we looking at there?
So that's a good reminder to get back. I did commission a enrollment projection study. It's probably been 2 months ago now. I think I got it just before the March meeting or something like that. So I haven't had a chance to really dig into it with the team. But yes, they take into consideration birth rates, death rates, all of those historical trends and everything. And I want to say they were projecting 200-300 students less over the next 3 to 5 years. Now, what part of King Scott can do as well is do another, part of theirs would be another enrollment projection 2. So it'd be nice to have those two side by side to compare. This one was done by the company that did it years ago as you were preparing to do the Safe Warm Dry Bond. And I wanted to just have that consistency of having them do a follow-up. So don't quote me on those numbers, but it is around 200 to 300 students less, according to those projections over the next, it was a 5-year projection. But we can dig into that more as we move forward with this.
Going back to the 20,000, can we get like an itemized list from them where
Yeah.
each part of that's coming
Yep.
from? Just because it is a big chunk of money
Yep.
to look at.
Yep. And that's what, now that, again, they gave us the whole quote with the 53,000, so now that we know the direction, I'll get that from them, and I'll share that with you prior to the board meeting.
You did good bargaining, Dave.
All right. And I got Mary on my side, too, so she's pretty good. And I guess I would just throw out, so I know we had a conversation, what she's dealing with is, the reason, it looks very positive from your. So the reason we didn't bring students back, one big reason was we did not know the conditions of the roads. We had good estimates from the road commission, but they, had caveats over all of the roads will be cleared except for those roads that have trees that are touching wires, because the road commission is not responsible for those. So we took today and had our drivers go out and drive their routes. We did find in the north end, a number of block streets, but we've already communicated with the families and made arrangements for different location pickups, and some are choosing just not to send their kids at this point, which is fine. However, we also discovered that our radio tower is down out on Manning Hill, and so we don't have radio coverage on the country routes. We do in the city, correct? And we also have cell service in the city, so if the radios go down. So we were reaching out to emergency management to see if they had some fancy handheld radios, and they don't, apparently. So now we're trying to figure out what to do. This is a concern because the drivers did report that there are trees and wires leaning precariously, and if something happens, we don't have good cell coverage out in the country routes, we would have no way to be in communication. So we're working through that, and it does not look like we found a solution at this point. So we may be making a late night decision here, folks, to postpone students coming back if it's not safe to transport the kids. But that is why we took today, to just go through all systems and see if they're up and running. And we've been working on this for a couple hours at this point, I think. So anyway, back to bringing Mary into the,
Can I-
oh, you already said that, you're good, okay.
While she's walking up, can I digress just for a second?
Yeah.
So a quick question, since this is a declared emergency area, what are we looking at for forgiveness of these days?
Yeah, great question. So the governor, Cam Cavett, and the state superintendent have all made statements that these days, they're working on a solution to have these days forgiven. So my guess is they will. Surrounding districts are not coming back. They were scheduled to come back tomorrow. There'll be announcements coming out soon that they're not coming back till Monday. And so I don't even know about Petoskey and the other side of the state, but our local districts are in pretty bad shape. It has to technically go through the legislature to forgive those days. That process is working. Justin Glusing actually reached out on behalf of all the districts and said that it is moving forward. Don't quote my math at this point because my brain's a little fuzzy, but we have, I think we are at 8 snow days, correct? Was it 7 or 8 at this point? We are at 7. Okay. So this year we had 181 student days built into the calendar. So we actually get 8 because we can use that additional day and still be at the 180 minus our snow days. So if we're at 7 now, we can, absence 8, 9, and 10, go through the traditional waiver process. We get an additional 3 that we can ask for above and beyond our 6, which for us is actually 7. Does that make sense? So we all districts get 6, but because we had an additional student day in our calendar, we automatically have 7 that we can get forgiven because the 1 just doesn't even factor on the state's account. Now for 8, 9, and 10, every year we have 3 that we can ask for a waiver above and beyond the 6. So 8, 9, and 10 will just go through the normal waiver process. We're sitting, what, at 10, 11, 12 or something like that. Those would then be forgiven through the emergency. Either way, I think we're in pretty good shape, whether we go through the waiver and the emergency or they just waive them all because of the emergency. We should not have to make up these days. Yeah. I enjoyed watching the snow today in my powerless house, but yeah. So anyway, they're working on it. It's going to take a while. I would hope they, make that announcement soon. But I feel pretty good that we'll have these days forgiven.
Okay, anything else while we're off track?
It's a workshop.
I'm fine, it's a workshop. Okay, well,
It's
nothing
me
else.
next, right?
Well, you're just one of the citizens addressing the board. Okay. We are at our first opportunity for citizens or delegations who may address the Board of Education according to Board Policy 0167.3, public participation at board meetings. Individuals addressing the board are asked to state their name, address, and/or your group affiliation. Shall direct all comments to the board, not staff or other participants. Shall not make personal attacks against a school board member or school district employee by name. Shall be limited to 3 minutes in duration, and shall not speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. This portion of the meeting shall be limited to 30 minutes, but the time frame will be extended if necessary so that no one's rights to address the boards will be denied. So with that, podium, if anyone is interested. Come on up, Thane. Yep, come on up, introduce yourself if you don't mind, and we'll get a timer started. Do you have the remote, Summer?
My name is Thane Weitzel. I live at 303 Liberty. I was without power for 48 hours. But I would like to thank you and the rest of the board for paying the IAs for the time missed. Unlike myself, I'm not working specifically for the money. I'm retired, I don't need the money. But a lot of those IAs really depend on that. And the fact that they're getting paid for this time missed, I just appreciate that. So on behalf of all of them, God bless and thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening.
My name is Bruce Heath, and I live in Ossining. And I'm here to talk about the failing scores that we have in this school district in math and reading. And I'd like to know what you guys are going to do about it. Can we have some remedial programs to get these kids up to speed now? You haven't been doing anything, and what you're doing now is not working. Your scores are showing it. You have to focus some effort in that area now, because the kids, if they're not ready to get a job or go to school, we're going to fail as a society. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thanks for coming. Moving on to our discussion items.
Yeah, we did have a.
Yeah, that's right, we do have a letter if you want to read. Yep, that's fine, we could read that now, thank you. Set your timer if you don't mind while you read.
Dear Monica, from what I can determine, the Fairview example appears to be an exception rather than the rule when it comes to public school policies in Michigan. The overwhelming majority of school districts seem to be following the state's interpretation of civil rights law, which prioritizes access to bathrooms, changing rooms, and shower facilities based on gender identity rather than biological sex. While I may not personally agree with a policy that prioritizes gender identity over biological sex, I recognize that, under current Michigan law, public schools are required to comply with its interpretation. Unless or until the law changes, districts have little choice but to follow these guidelines. I understand that opinions on this issue vary. However, I respectfully ask that the Fairview model not be promoted or encouraged as a standard for other districts to follow. I believe this approach risks deepening division with our community and may invite legal challenges. Instead, I urge continued conversations aimed at finding a more thoughtful, inclusive, and legally sound path, one that respects students' privacy while also acknowledging the reality schools face under current law. I've attached a summary of the information I found in my research and ask that my comments be added to the public record. Respectfully, Janet Fairchild.
Thank you. Okay, now moving on to our discussion items, strategic planning, the good stuff.
All right, each time I should reach that, right? Yeah. I was gonna say, make it quick, Dave.
Only partway plugged in.
$64 slides.
I was just gonna ask if that was the actual number.
I will try to be brief.
This was supposed to be one entire meeting.
Yeah. It's, you know, it seems to be a theme where we got a lot and we have to condense it greatly. So this was going to be the focus of our retreat, which would have been a whole meeting in itself. So I have 64 slides, but we will try to move through in a concise way, let's say. It's collaborative leadership. It is the strategic plan, the summit review. I've modified this a little bit and focusing mostly on the school board and superintendent book study, tying it into our strategic plan and other documents. I'll send you all a copy, but if you want to have it on your own device, anyone can scan this. There'll be a couple more opportunities for you to do that, but with the board, I will share it with you directly when we're done here. I'm going to be referring to several documents, organizations, and all of that. And again, when you get this website, if you click on the icons, it gives you a link to the actual document and source. So the strategic plan has been about designing and delivering aligned systems to maximize student outcomes. So all of these different resources and everything, aligning them from a board perspective, superintendent and board perspective, but also in the building levels themselves, they've been taking everything that we've been doing and aligning it. When we talk about designing and delivering things, it doesn't necessarily mean start from scratch, but it's talking about designing those systems. So we may be doing an awful lot around assessment in the district, but do we have a consistent district-wide system for assessment? Well, that's been the work so far of our strategic plan, aligning with the MyKIP, which is the school improvement plan. And then as we talked about as a board, our first activity was aligning the language of my evaluation to the strategic plan. And sorry, I should go back and just kind of touch on it. So AASA is the American Association of School Administrators. I'll talk about the program that I'm involved with them in a little bit. MASB is just referencing my superintendent evaluation, and then the NPBEA, National Policy, they created the professional standards, the leadership standards that informed the development of the Michigan Superintendent Evaluation. The board, this board, does an annual self-assessment, so we'll spend a little time looking at that from an alignment lens. That MyKIP is the school improvement process that we're required to be a part of by law. And then, of course, our strategic plan is there on the right-hand side. So, again, aligning all of these things, and of course, we're here to talk about how our book study fits into all of this. So, I don't remember when it was, but it was last fall when I gave you this document. Does everyone remember that one? Yep. Yeah. It's probably on your refrigerator, I would imagine. So what we were doing here was taking the strategic plan and aligning it with my superintendent evaluation, which talks about board goals and all of that. And so the idea is, if the strategic plan is heading in one direction and my evaluation and your focus is heading in another, that's not good. So we wanted to make sure that it was aligned. So what I did in this was I took, this is the strategic plan language. This is the PEASL standards, the professional standards that informed my, the state of Michigan superintendent evaluation tool. This was just part of the research that informed the development of the superintendent evaluation. And then, of course, these were actual rubrics from my evaluation. And so we did this in each of the pillars. This one's academics and programs. And I just took the different rubric components from my evaluation that aligned with those pillars. Because, again, the idea is we want to make sure that I'm working on what's aligned with the strategic plan, or vice versa. And as well, our work together as a team should be aligned to what's going on in the strategic plan. So then I mentioned, the second activity, and I apologize, I forgot to switch out the logo, but the staff did the same thing through the MyKIP process. We took our strategic plan and they went through and looked at what they're already doing in their classrooms and buildings and how it aligned to the language of the strategic plan. And then we took that and aligned it with the language of the MyKIP process, which talks about goals, implementation activities, strategies, and those sorts of things, to show that the strategic plan is really just aligning all of the work that we're doing in the classrooms all the way up to the board. So with all of that work that's been going on and continues to go on, our board retreat is about focusing the alignment between the strategic plan, superintendent evaluation, and I went into the board self-assessment as well, and then, of course, the book study, Great on Their Behalf. Oops. So again, just kind of why would we do a book study? All of those organizations have something to say about it. So with the AASA, I applied for the National Superintendent Certification Program last summer. I was accepted, and then in September, I went to Washington to meet with a national group of superintendents, and then in March, I went in New Orleans as well. I'll go to Washington again in this coming September, and then finish next March or February in Tennessee, and have completed the 2-year program to receive this certification. But how does that tie back to why I'm doing that? This rubric on the bottom there comes from my evaluation under the instructional leadership component. It's professional knowledge, and basically to be effective, I have to participate actively in professional groups, organizations, and professional growth, and of course hold the proper certifications. So from that, it's an opportunity for me to grow my profession, skills and things. And then also part of my evaluation is from governance and board relations. Board development was one of the areas that in December when we met was an area of growth for me, identified by the board. And it actively encourages board development by providing board members with information regarding board development opportunities when they arise, and then, of course, ensures funding is available. So the conversation we had at that point was, is this my responsibility or is this the board's responsibility? And my evaluation says it is my responsibility. So that's why you see me recommending, the conference, things like that. But also this book study is a big part of that. We're developing as a board through that. If you look at this rubric too, so it always references their PESL, Professional Standards for Educational Leaders, number 6. This is that standard, and I've just highlighted a couple of those areas. Again, effective educational leaders develop the professional capacity of school personnel, and we're all school personnel. And then a couple other points there. Develop teacher and staff members' professional knowledge through differentiated opportunities. Foster continuous improvement of individual and collective instructional capacity. And then empower and motivate teachers and staff to the highest levels of professional practice. And then, of course, our strategic plan, our personnel pillar, talks about professional development there, but developing highly qualified staff, and so that fits into this as well. Questions? Drink of water? All right, so the book is called Great on Their Behalf. You all have a copy of it, and those are little markers that you can use to highlight your favorite passages and things like that if you want, mark pages. It's broken into 2 parts. Number 1, why school boards fail, and number 2, how your school board can become effective. And so in part 1, there's chapter 1. There's also an introduction, which I didn't list here, but chapter 1 focuses on knowledge-based failures, 2 on skill-based failures, and 3 on mind-based failures. These questions for a book study come from the author, and they're broken down. And so Again, in the interest of time, I will not read all of them, but you get the idea that it talks about inputs versus outcomes. If tying back to we're here for student outcomes, it talks about the differences there. And then mindset, just having everyone have a fixed versus or a growth-oriented versus fixed mindset. I'll move on. Part 2 is how your school board can become effective. So step 1 is focus mindset. Step 2, clarify priorities. Step 3, monitor progress. Step 4, align resources. And step 5, communicate results. So in step 1, focusing the mindset, student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors do. Chapter 5 is what is our why, and chapter 6 is representing the community. So again, not going to go through and read all of these, but the idea is that it's connected to our strategic plan. So, when you're talking about student outcomes, that certainly falls into our academics and programs. And many of these fall into different areas of the strategic plan and my evaluation and as well. But what is our why? It talks a lot about the community's vision, so that falls right into our family and community partnership. Representing the community certainly falls into the family and community partnership. And then again, just talking about aligning all of what we're working on. In my evaluation, there's a community relations section, so that certainly aligns with the work of this book here. Step 2, again, community vision, community values, board work versus superintendent work, understanding assessments. The community vision and values is absolutely aligned with our family and community partnership goal. Board work versus superintendent work, again, from my evaluation, going back to Gordon, governance and board relations, that fits right into that. Understanding assessments. It was interesting, someone brought up last time the difference between, we were talking at our PD about the difference between summative and formative, and there's a whole section on, what that means in a classroom. And then it all ties back to, as a board member, what's your role in, assessing that data, monitoring that data, that sort of thing. But okay, so questions? Comments, thoughts?
Not used to that. So all the questions that you just were flipping through there, I don't see them in the book.
No, so
I didn't know if there was like questions at the end of the chapter to ponder
there are
on.
a couple of prompts, but no, it's a separate document from that. So we would just work off of the separate document as we do those. And you've got the questions. That one I know is in a past superintendent update. I shared that spreadsheet with all the questions.
Questions from the book?
It looks like this. That spreadsheet.
I'd have to go back and look.
I linked it in one of the updates when I was rolling out the
Your book idea.
the book idea.
Okay.
So. But we'll print them up and have them available. And then, of course, any questions that come up that aren't a part of it, or, that's what the book discussion would be.
Maybe you'll answer this coming up, but how do you see us proceeding? Like, are we reading a chapter a week? You're reading the whole book and talking about it? Yep, there we go. See, I'm moving through all these slides. All right.
And we're done. Thank you, everyone. Again, this was done before last week took place. I'm a little tired myself, so if we want to adjust this. The author proposed 8 months to study. 8 months.
We're doing 4.
And that's what I, so, there's a number of chapters, but this is how I kind of broke it up, just reducing it down to 4 months. And 2, if we could end in July, then we are starting next year having had this under our belt. If we extend into August and September, we're starting a new year, still kind of going back and putting things in place. Now I gotta find the right. All right. Okay, so, again, I'm just looking for alignment of what we are already doing, you know, and so, kind of going back to, we had conversations last year about board self-assessment. Administered the first board self-assessment since I've been here in July of last year. And so these are those results. And as I was looking through this, again, there's alignment there. And I don't, as you saw, I have many, many slides here. It's the whole board self-assessment. But I just wanted to kind of highlight some points. So leadership, well, let me go back. So it all kind of fits under, you know, the community's vision. All of these chapters, the board self-assessment aligns with what's in these chapters. So leadership, and then, so these are the ratings. 7 people last July, 7 board members rated themselves on this. And so this is the average of those responses. So the lowest rating was academic performance and accountability at 3.18. The highest was at board superintendent relations at 4.34. And then the color coding, you know, yellow is satisfactory, green good, red needs improvement, those kind of things. So if you look at leadership, 3.47, this breaks it down. Again, I don't want to go too fast, but, and you do have this available, you will have this available. Yeah. And so what you're looking at there is, in question 1, clearly articulate the vision and mission statements for the district, so it goes back to the book chapters. One person said, well, it was the lowest rating, so I think this was a 5-point scale. So one person put a 1 down as their response, you know, on the low end of the performance, and then 5 would be, we're performing very well. So one person did the lowest, 2 did, you know, the second, and then 4 people put at the, not the top rating, but I should have had the numbers. I think it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wasn't it? So this is a 5-point scale. So in that one, nobody put a 5. You can see further down some of those with the dark green, one person responded with a 5 for those. So it shows you the distribution, which is interesting. But again, tying it back to some of those statements from the book, vision and all of that, academic performance and accountability, again, commit to a vision of high expectations, you know, ensure the district has a comprehensive performance-based plan for improvement student achievement. Well, that's what the strategic plan is, and then it filters into the MyKIP plan. Focuses on issues that impact student achievement. Review progress toward the long and short-term goals. Again, just a lot of things that resonate with, align with the strategic plan and the book study. The next one is board responsibilities. Does our board understand its function and role? Focus on policy rather than management, regularly review and update policies, and just reading some of the questions, you know, again. Basic principles of school finance, including state, federal income. Next one is board effectiveness. Focus on board agenda and meetings on issues related to improving student achievement. A big focus of the book is, you know, what does the board do with its time? One of the activities is analyzing a year's worth of agendas and seeing what areas the board is spending its time, and then based on what you find, what do you do going forward? Data-driven decision-making. Our whole strategic plan is grounded in continuous improvement through data. But it's interesting, one of these you know, you see a lot of reds there for, because we don't have the data for you to make those decisions. So what is that data gonna be? That's the work of the strategic plan and the book study. Board superintendent relations. So create an environment that discourages micromanagement, undermining superintendent, clear set of expectations of performance and personal qualities against which the superintendent will be measured. That one's a little tricky because my evaluation is defined in the, by state law. This book also talks about like kind of creating your own evaluation for the superintendent. So you just have to work through that because there are parameters for the evaluation. But it's about focusing the superintendent on evaluation on student outcomes, essentially. And community engagement, again, that's a pillar of ours. Ensure the district's educational goals are established and communicated to all stakeholders. Allow for citizen input through public hearings, advisory committees. Ensure a variety of strategies to appropriately communicate with different stakeholders while remaining within its strategic role. Visibility at district and community events. Refrain from speaking on board issues for which the board has no official opinion. So a variety there. And in the book, it does talk about two-way communication with the community beyond just public comment at a board meeting. And looking back at our strategic summit, we had a couple of comments about hosting coffee hours and things like that with board members. And the book dives a little bit deeper into it as well. Having hosted, it's actually how I met Dr. Lawson, hosting, was that a coffee or I feel like we had breakfast or something, but it's hard to get people to come to those kind of things, so you have to be creative, thinking how the board can get out, not be a quorum, but hear from the community. So I just blew through a whole bunch of slides pretty quickly. Thank you. The self-assessment is not, it's a self-assessment. It's not saying this is what you have to do, but again, there's a lot of alignments between those indicators and our strategic plan, my evaluation, the school improvement process, and what the book talks about here. Questions? Comments? All right. So then step 3 of the book, monitoring progress. Again, tying it back to the strategic plan. Our statement is continuous improvement through data, communication, monitoring, and support. So that's one of the grounding principles of the strategic plan. And then again, the author goes into quite a bit about what is the board's role? Like, what data should you be looking at? How often should you be monitoring? What do your goals look like compared to a classroom goal or a building administrator goal and all of that? And then how do you effectively progress monitor? So then next is evaluating board performance and superintendent performance. And again, the alignment there is to the board self-assessment and to the superintendent's evaluation. Step 4, aligning the resources. So most valuable resource, align decision-making and cascading priorities throughout the organization. Again, it aligns very well with personnel, stewardship. His point is that the most valuable resource of the board is time, but then also talks about, what he would do with all our other resources and those sorts of things. And then aligning, again, critical word there, aligning our decision-making process. That is the work that we talked about, with us aligning our work, but also at the district level, teachers, administrators aligning their work and making decisions that are aligned with the strategic plan, based in data, and then, cascading those priorities throughout the organization. and how do you ensure that the priorities are aligned at all levels of the organization? And then, responsibility to the community and conclusion. And so responsibility to community, again, it's part of our family and community partnership goal. And then we close out with a conclusion and what are the big thoughts there. The plan would be, and I heard support for 4 months, getting it done in time for July and start the new school year. But we'd be doing that. So if you can't see that in the back, it's essentially 4 chapters each month. I think it's 4, 5, 4, and 5, including the, well, there's an introduction and a conclusion. And so we would, you know, when we come together for a workshop, we would set aside, he recommends an hour, you know, to go through the questions. If we want to, you know, modify those questions or whatever, but those are the talking points, and then, you know, we go forward from that. So I just took 4 hours and crammed it into, how long? 3 minutes. Still, I got 3 minutes. So, you kind of have to, you got the book already, so. Yeah.
Easy to listen to, I've been listening, so.
Do you know any districts that have gone through this?
I don't, so it was, and thank you, I forgot to mention that. At our March session at AASA, the first day was on board superintendent relations, and this was a book that AASA was recommending. So Brian is our lead superintendent. I believe it was, he had used it with his board. I'll double check that to make sure. And he's out in Pennsylvania. But locally, no. I don't know that book studies with boards are all that common. I've never experienced one in my career. But I think again, it's very timely, you know, and it really resonates with the work that we're doing with the strategic plan. And again, it helps to develop the board, which we focused on as part of my evaluation. So I will reach out and see. I want to say Brian's district did use it, and that's why he recommended it.
Anything else? Okay, we'll move along, kind of flows into the next one with the policy 1210, the board superintendent relationship. And I know we have the original policy in our packet, and I did bring the paper that Monica had brought last time as well. We were originally looking at potentially modifying the wording or eliminating the wording of the second sentence, but I didn't know where we're at with that.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, I know we had options on the table. I'm not sure if everyone felt that they needed to be changed. I guess that would be the first question. And then
Well, we just
choosing
saw-
between options, so.
Yeah, we just saw a bunch of questions about the board and its policy-making role, you know, in all those questions. So I think the question was, should the board be able to originate or change policy with or without the recommendation of the superintendent? I think the feeling that I got from Monica when she was talking about this was that the board should probably be consulting the superintendent about policy, but this makes it sound as if the superintendent is the only originator of policy by making this recommendation. I think given statute that we know exists, plus all of the information we were just presented with, that doesn't seem entirely appropriate. So I think crafting some language that says maybe something policy should not be origin or change without consultation of the superintendent or something like that would seem to be maybe more appropriate to our function. Monica, I don't know if
Yeah.
that was kind of, if I was reading it too much into what you were mentioning last time?
No, I think just better clarification. It basically states the same thing, but like I said, there's two different ways to read that sentence. Basically saying we can't do anything unless you recommend it, originate it, which is not, we're the originators as far as the governing and policy making. So it just clarifies that sentence a little bit more with leaving the same meaning. Because I think we came up with, therefore, the board shall not originate or amend a policy without first giving the superintendent the opportunity to provide recommendations or input, so that we're collaborating.
Yeah, I can find, like, I just looked at other districts around, too, and there really, I didn't find anything that was, exactly, I felt exactly like we were looking for. I found different language that, similar to what you had. Also, like, the superintendent will apprise the board about the implementation of its policies and will recommend changes to policies as necessary. The board may update, add, or delete policies as needed. And then was this, maybe was this your language, Malice? Yeah, and then this was yours, right? Yes. However, or therefore, the board shall not originate or amend. Yep, so that was yours. So they were just, yep, I wrote that one down. So there weren't a lot of great examples out there. I thought your sentence that you came up with seemed to work and show a good collaboration. Because, I mean, that's truly how it's been. As long as I've been on the board, it's always been a great collaboration. We've brought policies that we've been concerned about, and you've shared policies that aren't working for the district, and
Actually, I think that's reasonable. It does show collaboration. It's not in isolation, the board or the superintendent, because the wording here is a little contradictory in the fact that it says the primary duty of the board to establish policy and that of the superintendent to administer. Then the next statement, policy should not be originated or changed without the recommendation of the superintendent. So the board has the ability to do it, but then the next sentence states that it has to come from a recommendation from you. I think a collaborative approach is certainly within the scope of the board, and it's not cutting your legs out from underneath you, and I think it would help to clarify that and in line with what we're actually doing. I think that's reasonable.
Monica, could you read what you prepared again?
Therefore, the board shall not originate or amend a policy without first giving the superintendent the opportunity to provide recommendations or input.
I like that.
yeah, so I think she had, I crossed off the word therefore, but she had the word therefore. Do you have that from last time?
There, you got it.
You do?
You got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So that would go in place of that second sentence. Okay. Everyone good with that?
So does that move that to April, or the official meeting for second reading then? Is that how I'm feeling this going?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is the first reading, and
Put
then
it on
second
the,
reading we'll put on the, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, up next, we're at curriculum and instruction. Consideration of the Thunder Bay Junior High course that we had heard about at our was that at our workshop last month? Yeah.
Seems like it was years ago. I think it's.
I know, it all blurs together at some
So
point.
you have those in front of you.
Yep.
I don't know if you had any questions, or these are the ones that were presented by the staff from both buildings. And kind of the timeliness piece, obviously last week was a little bit of a pinch. But the timeliness piece is now they want to be able to get those in so they can start putting the students in. They have preliminary numbers, but again, the goal is to have things done by April 15th roughly. So we know what they are, then we can start tying staffing to it, see what it looks like, but we can't move forward on that process till they're approved, so.
Does anyone have any questions about these again for Matt while he's up here, or Steph?
This might be I mean, I'm all for both of these, but my only question is on the advanced English. And this might be a redundant question, but if we're pulling the top students into the advanced class, is that somehow, or how will that help the rest of the students?
Well, it's not all of them. That's the other thing. One of the things Katie made clear is there's gonna be a group of students based on their scores. You always have that, you have to find a balance. Because again, some will say, you know, if you move them, AP classes could be judged the same way. Where you look and say, if a student takes AP Gov, we used to have AP Gov classes at, one time I think we had 4 sections of it, and they'd say, well, what do you have left if all your students are advanced placement and they're all going into those, but we still had other students that just chose not to take it. Part of this is based on recommendations, also part of it's based on the student. The workload will be a little heavier. You may have students that choose A, you may not, and then also with a parents' collaborative piece with it. Will it have an impact on? It may. I mean, I think it's gonna take a little bit of time to see where that goes. Because it's a new course, you're gonna have to find some balance in there also. Right now, you know, the balance with PBL and what those pieces were too, there's also that, finding the balance with that, because now those students will be shifting and adjusting into that. So I think we'll have a better idea, moving out a year, what that looks like. But it's hard to tell. I mean, whenever you bring in a course, it's an advanced course, again, whether it be AP, whether advanced bio, we've done that over the years. You know, what does that do for another course? You don't know until really get a little bit under you to see what it looks like.
Gotcha.
Again, another good option for students. We'll see. I don't know how broad it'll be. Some may choose it, some may say, you know, that's just not for me right now. Let's see how it goes. So it'll be interesting to see.
Great. As a parent, I'm excited about that. I know it's hard to meet, especially for teachers, hard to meet the needs of all your students. So maybe if you can kind of pull them apart a little bit, helps those, you know, maybe in that case, like they can slow down or help the students that need a little bit of remediation or something and not hold back some of those higher achievers.
And you might have one class. That's the thing for start the year. We might have, you know, as we're looking at scheduling numbers right now, if you have a class and a half, well, you're not gonna run a class and a half. So you say you might have a class for the first year or first semester, depending on the course, what's it look like? And then kind of build it from there. And usually new courses take about a year or two before students, you know, they tend to be a little shy. Hey, this is something new and exciting. You know, sometimes they're just kind of like, hey, let me see what happens. And their friends go, hey, this is a really cool class. Next year you have 4 sections of it, so.
Good with staffing, we think?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's just kind of pivoting the staff.
Yep.
Would you entertain a motion, or would
Yeah.
these are
Yep.
action items? I
Yep, these
assume?
are action items, so we can get.
All right. I would move to approve new English Language Arts course, Advanced English, for the grades 6, 7, and 8 to be offered during the 2025-2026 school year.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further conversation on this first one?
Just out of curiosity, so this seems like a little different procedure. It seems like we hadn't been doing any voting on, you know, had any action items on workshops before. We would have separate meetings. Is that the new?
It's because we're combining meetings, and we looked through the bylaws and couldn't find anything that prevented us from doing that. It's unique, too. I was going to make a statement.
So
but
this is not necessarily going to be the new
No.
order of the day, just sort of because of the crunch?
Yep.
We're doing it this way. Okay.
Just need to get it voted on before we next meet, correct?
Yes.
Help the scheduling.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you said April 15th, Matt?
Really, it's a pinch point on this one, just because we can't move forward with scheduling until we actually get this one solidified. Same with the next piece we'll talk about, there's another, it's just time sensitive.
And we debated doing a special, or a special meeting after this and everything, but we just felt that because of the length of the agenda as well, we'd go through.
Okay, anything else before, okay? We can just do a hands up for this. All in favor? Show of hands, please. Okay, thank you. Okay, and next we have the AHS practical writing class, also in your packet. If anyone has any, does anyone have any new questions? We have Matt come back up, or if anyone wants to entertain a motion, or if you want to throw it out there, we are good to go.
I move we adopt the English Language Arts course.
I'll support that.
Okay, any further conversation on this one? Okay, if not, all in favor, show of hands, please. Okay, thank you. Great. Thank you to you guys and your staff on that. Those will be great classes, so.
Just so, we're going to move, closed session next, right? Did I get that?
We are?
We'll do our closed sessions in different locations, so those of you, we don't have to kick you out into the snow. And then there's an update, so I'm gonna let Matt handle this first closed session, and I'll touch base with Mary and Lee, but we'll be nearby.
Yep, and for those waiting, I don't anticipate this one to be a horribly long one.
Yeah,
I
this will
wouldn't
be
think.
a short one.
Yep,
Should be.
Should be, okay.
We
We need a motion though,
We need a
please,
motion.
before we leave.
Sorry.
I move to move into closed session for whichever
Yeah,
section.
Section
we've got.
8H of the Open Meetings Act, yep. AJ, Monica, on this one appears just to be a show of hands, right? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Wherever you want us.
Sure, or just HR right across the hall.
Is there anything in the confidential one?
I think he's just.
Yeah, just, one if you would like.
No, I don't. Not a resolution, so not money related.
7:22, so we can't resolve the radio issue. And so we're looking at calling tomorrow off for students. Yeah, so they're working on that message. So I was.
So how long will it take to get it back?
Okay, we ready, friends? I think we have everybody. Okay, we're back in open session, and if anyone would like to make a motion regarding our closed session business?
Someone like to read the proposed motion?
Motion that the board meet, oh, sorry.
Next one.
Motion to approve the waiver of the MME testing graduation requirements for students A and B.
I would offer that motion.
Second.
Okay, any further conversations? Okay, all in favor, show of hands, please. Okay, thank you. Charitable gifts.
Should we talk about these next time? Or we approve these?
Oh, yeah, it is.
next time?
Now it feels like a real meeting, yes, so
Yeah.
charitable gifts will be read at our real meeting, our.
Sorry, I didn't catch
Yep,
that.
so we've got those in front of you, and we'll move on to our second opportunity for any citizens or delegations to address the board. Okay, I'm going to keep moving. Thank you for coming. Information and questions from board members. Up first, we have the board visitation that was scheduled for this Wednesday that we needed to reschedule again.
And so we certainly can try it again, and I do apologize, for the on again, off again. We just didn't feel it was right to, have them get prepared and do all that in light of what was going on. But they're ready to welcome you if we want to try to find yet another date. Okay.
It's getting this close to the end of the year, they're gonna be quite busy with everything. Is it a burden to them to have a board visitation at this point, or, when they're busy?
Steph, do you want to chime in at all? I don't know, what is the testing window I know obviously we're moving into testing windows that are going to last the rest of the school year for the most part, but I don't know what it's like in elementary schools, so.
Yeah.
M step is gonna be pretty much wrapped up by the first or second week of May for the most part, across the board, but then you kinda get into the field day craziness and,
Do you want to just maybe have conversations with Josh and the guys at Hanks and get their opinion and
Yeah,
maybe
we
go
can
from
do that.
there? What are we thinking?
I don't know, I almost feel like at this point, going into testing and coming on to the end of the year and, you know, the end of the year activities and graduations and stuff, we certainly don't want to put a burden. I'm kind of speaking out of line here because I'm probably working anyway, won't be able to.
Yeah.
But there's a lot for them, and I don't know, maybe we just wave it off for this year since we've had 2 cancellations. Food for thought.
Okay.
I agree, because knowing, being a former teacher and getting toward the end of the school year, it gets a little crazy.
Well, and
Yeah.
another thought.
And there's
I
a
mean,
lot going on.
There is, and I know obviously that school visits look totally different than everything, but I know starting probably at the end of this month, the advanced planning for us gets so full with all sorts of, you know, top 10% dinner, the senior awards. There's just so much that probably is a little bit more going to use up more time than so. And I guess if we're going to say, let's just push this off, I would think maybe next year, obviously the beginning of the year is not great, but maybe later fall. I know we've done it in the winter, but the past 2 winters, we've done it on days that have been snow days. So maybe we're better off doing something before the like Christmas.
Or we plan board visitation every Monday, so we get a snow day each.
So maybe just thinking about doing, or doing, yes, something different maybe. 'Cause I think that February date has been a struggle, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll talk to the team and see, but I would imagine there wouldn't be much objection to pushing it off to next year.
And I know when I was talking to one of the Besser PAC members, they had parents that were coming in to help, so do different stuff. So I'm sure it is something that's
Yeah.
going to be harder for
It's
people
coordinated.
to schedule and coordinate, especially as we rebound from this storm. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's push that off for the rest of the school year if that's okay with everybody. And obviously, if it's not, you can work with the building staff to schedule your own visits. So.
Well, there is, Ella White has rescheduled their literacy night for the 15th of this month from 5 to 7.
What about Lincoln and their pancake breakfast dinner? Because that was the 9th, isn't it?
They discussed possibly moving that up a week, so that you have a confirmed date, and they can get you the date, but it's, I think they're gonna bump it up, a week later.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Lincoln has a math night on the 1st of May from 4 to 6.
Maybe we can start working on getting more of those added to our upcoming events. It's a little helpful if we kind of have them all.
I'll try
in
to
there
put
if
them
we
out
have
when they
them.
come across me.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that'd be great. So, I know, I think everyone should have gotten in the mail their invitation from Besser for the dinner. Did everyone get one or no? Or do I just get that?
That's a good question. I got mine. Besser Foundation for
Besser
top
Foundation
10.
does the top 10% dinner, which is, I'm looking at
Did
Callie
anyone
back
get one?
there.
I got one.
You did?
Yes,
Yeah.
that Sunday, April 27th, but I think that they asked us to RSVP by this Sunday, so mine came in the regular
I don't think
mail.
I've seen that come through yet.
Yeah,
I
it's
remember seeing it.
a hard copy.
It came in the
invitation.
snail mail. What'd you say? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, okay. That's a good one. It's a great event, so if you can make that one, it's long, but it's very good. Probably. Well, I can send you a screenshot or a picture of mine if you need it, so. Okay, we're good with that. All right, moving up to the Fairview Policy 5900. Do you want to start?
Sure. So, again, my mind is a little fuzzy these days. So, I reached out to Troon just for, I guess, first off, it's not a Neola policy, it's not a Troon policy. So I just asked Troon for opinion on the policy. And essentially, their opinion is that that policy would contradict our anti-harassment policies that we have in place already. And that if you're looking at the executive order doesn't dictate that you have this policy in place. So if you didn't have that policy, you wouldn't be in violation of the executive order that was issued. And they went so far as to say, if you have the policy, obviously if it's a violation of the anti-harassment policy, but it's also in violation of the Elliott-Larsen civil rights law, and that would potentially invite complaints or grievances. They said if you discuss it as a board, but if you were to put that policy in place, that their opinion is in violation of that. And then we received a letter from the ACLU speaking to that issue as well. I think that's all I had on it.
I would actually like to move it forward to a first reading though at our next meeting. Usually when there's conflict between state law and federal law does go over Michigan law or state law. And as far as the executive order, we're talking about Title IX, not necessarily just the executive order. Title IX as written in 1972. And also, Friday, there was a press release that came out from the Department of Education, U.S. Department of Justice. So I wanted to pass this out as well, and then also submit it into the minutes.
All right, I guess I'll go. Just so everyone in attendance, this is a workshop. This is spitball. This is not a formal thing, so we can have discussion here. I am not opposed to having discussions about this, and I think that having discussions is certainly a reasonable thing. My reservation falls in the fact that things are unfolding so rapidly that it's more of a moving target. We don't know where the laws or the executive orders or the guidance is going to end up. There's so many changes going on with the education department and what that funding is going to look like and what's going to be attached to that. And I think that to have this discussion, which is not unreasonable, it may be a bit premature until we at least know how this falls and how it fleshes out. And then at that point, to have that discussion, just kind of see where we're at that time based on what the laws of the land are, would certainly be reasonable. I think if we have this conversation and have the resources and the time dedicated to it at this point, it might change in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. And so although I am completely in favor of having conversation on this, I think that at a later time would be more appropriate. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I guess I'm, concerned about a couple of things. When I agree, so right now we're sitting in a good spot where we don't have a policy that's in violation of the current executive order, but creating a policy like the one Fairview has already gotten the attention of the ACLU, and to me, part of our board responsibility is to be fiscally responsible for our district, and knowing that this is potentially, whether or not it is or isn't a violation of a civil rights laws, we have a legal responsibility to follow the civil rights laws. We also have responsibility as board members to protect the fiscal responsibility of protecting our district. And I worry that modifying a policy that hasn't been brought to us from administration, hasn't been brought to us because it's not, the current system that we have isn't working, and the students aren't coming forward, the staff isn't coming forward, so we're bringing a policy that We don't, like Eric pointed out, we don't really know where the federal government's gonna land on this. It's not a policy that we're struggling with, but yet we're gonna create one potentially that could jeopardize and create legal action for the district. Just is very scary for me, for like, you know, I know as a board, we're somewhat protected to, you know, with our insurance, and, you know, we're acting as a board, we're not acting individually, but I don't want to put the district in harm's way of any sort of litigation, and I don't want to personally be found on the end of some litigation from the ACLU of, you know, doing something that's in violation of Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. So I'm strongly opposed to moving any sort of policy like this forward without the backing of legal support.
If memory serves, though, Elliott Larson was changed after Title IX was changed to bring it into sort of alignment with what was going on there, and now with Title IX being changed back to its original intent, I think that that's Elliott Larson's going to follow. Personally, I'm not worried about an activist organization sending us an email, but I am worried about the federal government, and I still believe that the larger financial risk comes from being out of alignment with the federal government's dictates on this question.
Can I ask how you think that we're out of line with the federal government's?
Do you want me
I
to
think
read
the
the
federal
press
government's been very
release?
clear about biology and sex and gender, and I think that that's very clear.
Hey,
Would you like
sorry,
me to-
nothing from that. Sorry, Sue.
Yeah, I'm not going to respond to the audience on this, but we have received communications. You know, there are statements that the government has made. You can go on to the Office of Civil Rights website and read it.
I can read the press release.
Yeah.
I've
But
got
anyway,
that.
I think that this actually just fits very nicely with the question I was going to bring up, which I'll talk about later if you want. But I think having a second opinion, legal opinion, would be very, very helpful. And I think there is particularly one group in particular I think would be extremely helpful in looking at these sort of constitutional issues. It's an area of expertise for them. It's the Coleman Group. So I would like to see that. You know, our policy says that we have to submit a request for something be on the agenda 7 days before the workshop meeting. So for the next workshop, I'd like to see us put that on the agenda. Look at the Coleman Group, legal group, for a possible second opinion for exactly these kinds of questions.
I support that. I think it's a good idea to get other opinions.
So again, no, I'm.
So then
So
again,
we do
now we
have
spend
two
more
opinions
money
right now.
on attorney's fees.
Yeah.
I mean, how is
Well,
that
we might
physically
be in
responsible?
trouble if we don't have a policy in place. Did you?
But
did
we've
you-
already, we've already said that what we are following now,
What,
we are fine
so what
with
is
it.
our procedure right now?
What is our
What is our
procedure?
procedure?
We have,
For what?
For locker rooms, bathrooms, women's civil rights, what is our procedure right
So
now?
students work with the administrators. The administrators bring the parents into the conversation, talk to the students, and determine what the best course of action is.
So the way it was explained to me when I had to when I was talking to MASB about it, is the policies that we have don't have to outline every specific situation. So we don't have to have a policy about bathrooms. We don't have to policy about locker rooms. We don't have to have a policy about every single thing. Our broad policies cover all of that.
But if our procedures are not following a policy, do you understand what I'm saying? What is our procedure?
They are following Elliott Larson and our current policies.
Then that is against the federal government. That's what I don't want to see us lose money.
Yeah.
We can lose money if there's
So
violations
I would go back to,
made.
we do have two legal opinions. Neola provides an opinion, and Troon provides an opinion. The Coleman Group, yes, now we have to reach out to them. You know, there's obviously the history that's very well known that some districts chose to switch to the Coleman Group to quickly find out that the Coleman Group could not support school districts. They didn't have the level of expertise on school-based issues. So I just, if that's where we're heading, that they are potentially then, gonna be proposed as, let's use Coleman versus Troon, I can tell you that'd be a real hardship for the district, for our ability to operate, because that law firm just doesn't have the expertise.
I think putting into those terms is a bit of a straw man. That's not what I suggested. I suggested a secondary or tertiary legal opinion. Coleman Group, the cost per hour is $250, and they do not require a retainer.
Yep. Okay. We know what their opinion will be.
Yeah.
So then if we end up getting, and we may not, but end up getting in a legal situation with ACLU, or, so then we have to, the district then does have to rely on Coleman Group, because we already know that Troon and Neola will find that we are in violation, and they probably won't support us.
Then I'd rather have somebody who will support us rather than pull the rug out from under us or tell us that we can't do something that's
Look what
perfectly
happened in
legal.
Maine. Yep.
Anna, could we remind the audience that this is, we don't need to be hearing conversation?
Yep,
or-
sorry, yeah, I didn't even know, so, yep, guys, please, yeah, it's workshop, but just workshop for staff, thank you. Yeah, I don't know, I guess the big question that comes, 'cause I do agree completely with Eric about, I feel like getting ahead of ourselves with not knowing exactly, I mean, there are districts out there in Michigan who still have very, very strong policies that are the exact opposite of this Fairview one, and they have not rescinded any of their policies. So if the government's going to be coming after districts for being in violation of the executive order, I find it hard to believe that having a lack of a policy that is going to be sending up red flags. And I guess I just don't understand I mean, I know you guys are saying that you want this because it's protecting the district financially, but I feel like if we're modifying or adding policies that didn't come to us because there is a problem with the way that they're functioning, it's not coming to us because the staff has concerns, not coming to us because the students have concerns. The only reason it's coming to us is it's a personal or political gain. Like I just can't wrap my head around it, I guess. We've never really brought policies up for conversation that haven't had a reason to come up. And I know you're saying it's coming up because of this, but this came up on Friday and this came up 2 weeks ago, so.
Anna, if I could say something real quick.
Of course.
As far as the board functioning together, I think stating about political, personal gains, agendas, voting for friends, I think it kind of needs to stop. I mean, if we want to collaborate together.
No, I
this is
agree. I mean, I
not-
don't mean to be, like,
that is not
opinion.
why I'm bringing this forward. I'm bringing this forward because I've been reading up on losing federal funding, and I do not want to lose that.
I agree. I don't either.
I do not want to lose the funding.
Like I said, I mean.
And I think that, honestly, it really needs to stop. The pot stirring needs to stop.
I guess my question is, our policy company and our attorneys are not seeing this yet as there is clear direction to make these policy changes. That's my concern. I mean, the board, you employ me, so what the board decides, I will do. As we go down that, though, I wouldn't know how to enforce a bathroom policy the way this is written. I honestly don't know how I would be able to enforce that.
A legal group with a different opinion on the matter might have very good specific recommendations in that area.
Okay. Do you know what they are?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
So did we put on to check with Coleman?
I would like that. I would like to see that on the workshop agenda to discuss
For
next
May's
month.
workshop,
Yep.
or do you want to put it into?
Well, I think
in 2
I think reading our policy about building the agenda, that it would be appropriate to put it on the workshop, unless the consensus of the board is that we would like to see that on next month's, or what, 2 weeks from now? I could go either way.
23rd or
I think, yeah, and I'd be happy to look at this particular policy after we've acquired some other representation that might maybe give us a more complete picture.
Dave, has the administration from either the junior high or the high school, or any of the students or any of the staff, have they come forward to you to say that there's an issue?
No.
And they seem to be satisfied that the current procedure that we have right now in place, that goes between the administration, the parents, and the students, is working?
That's what they report to me, yes.
Well, if it's not broken, I don't say we need to fix it.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Were you still in Loudon? That was where you taught, Loudon?
No, Prince William.
Prince Wayne, okay. I thought you said you worked in Loudon County, Virginia, okay. That-
And I know what you're going after in
Well,
Loudoun
no, I
County.
was just gonna ask if you were there when that all went down.
But I was teaching in the state of Virginia when that all went down.
Okay, I just, for some reason, my memory said Loudon with you.
Prince William.
Okay. Well, I guess, being from Virginia, what was that like?
Was a county that was pretty much on the other end of the state from me.
Okay, that's, yeah,
Mhm.
I wasn't familiar with the geographies per se, so.
Yeah, I think whenever they can, either in 2 weeks or whatever works for their schedule, I guess, if they're able to come, I think would be a good idea, because we basically just said, yes, our procedure is against federal law.
But our lawyers are saying that we're not in any type of
Not right now,
jeopardy right now.
but wait until there's some complaints made.
Yeah,
But-
and I do know that there is a law firm going around pushing those lawsuits. I think
So
Rochester was entangled in that.
there's 4 of them
Yeah.
right now.
So I
say just get another opinion.
is that the equivalent of the ACLU, the threat of a law firm that's going around filing these complaints? I don't know. Again, I come back to, so if we do put this policy in place, even with, I can't imagine what the suggestions would be to, I've literally sat in a room at a table with an individual for over an hour, and I could not tell you if that was a male or a female. And so what does our staff do? I don't know that a law firm is gonna be able to come up with a way that doesn't violate any and everyone if we are stopping them at the door to a bathroom and saying, do you belong here? That's my concern. If this is put in place, I honestly don't know how, not me, but our administrators, our teachers would enforce this.
Anything further? I got notes to move forward to first reading and work on getting with Coleman Group for another opinion. Anything else?
I can put them in touch with the district, and they can provide information for us to consider at the next workshop.
So legal opinion at the workshop, potential first reading at the following workshop, or regular meeting, or
Well,
at that meeting?
I guess it would depend on,
what they say.
yeah, the time frame. You sometimes can't force these things. You just want to, work it through in an organic and sensible way.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Here,
One more thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
no, you're good.
I just almost forgot. Myself and the 2 Sarahs actually met with the high school student council 2 weeks ago, and it was an amazing experience to be able to be there and listen to them, and we did invite them to come tonight, which they did. I know that they didn't get up during board discussions, but we want to know if, it'd be nice if monthly at the workshops, maybe they can give a little 2-3 minute presentation on what's going on, maybe read some of the, comments in the box.
There was
You guys
another
got
one of
anything?
you that was gonna be here tonight, but she is currently babysitting my kids. But she wanted to be here.
Yeah, one of the models
So-
is a student liaison, and
Uh-huh.
they report out, just on the regular meeting agenda, workshop meeting agenda, whatever. And
Yeah, if we can maybe do that, or if they have anything they wanted to say possibly tonight.
Does anyone want to come forward? Are you? Perfect. Great.
Later
Great.
on.
Perfect. Thanks for using your voice. Perfect. And then, Dave, before I forget, I wrote a little note here, but that email that we had received about the Alpena County Planning Commission.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Remind me.
Well, it was that there used to be
They need a representative from either staff or the board to sit
A
on. the commission.
liaison.
It's part of their policy.
Yeah.
Hasn't been done in years, I don't think, has it?
No, because the person they cited had retired quite some time ago.
No.
So.
Do you have the request from them, what they were looking for? I saw the email somewhere.
I don't, I mean, I can pull it up here really quick, because I believe that came from, did that come from?
Does a planning commission, I believe?
I think it came from Michelle Smith, right?
Yes.
That was an old one. She emailed me earlier in January and then needed to get new information. It's not right, planning commission, sorry, here, I'll find it. Sounded like before it was a staff member, right? So maybe it's something that,
I think it was either a board member or a staff member. It was kind of a open invitation.
yeah, so right. On behalf of the Alpena County Planning Commission, I would like to invite the school board to appoint a representative to the Planning Commission. This position has been vacant since the previous appointee retired from her position within the school district. We would welcome a new appointee. We meet monthly on the fourth Thursday of the month in, the Annex Building on Chisholm. And then citing, I believe, probably their board policies or their policy. For a county planning commission, the county shall make every reasonable effort to ensure that the membership of the county planning commission includes a member of a public school board or an administrative employee of a school district included in whole or in part within the county's boundaries. The requirements of this subsection apply whenever an appointee is made to the planning commission. Just kind of goes on with their language, but had more information. And then, yes, Sam Gruke was the administrator for the AMA ESD. So she served for about 7 years until her retirement. So, or Sue, did I say, yeah, Sue. So,
Yeah, I could serve, a board member could serve.
Are you volunteering, Dave?
You got time for that, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, administrator, right?
yeah, well, yeah, we don't need to make any decisions right now, I don't think. I just wanted to remind you that got that email right before the storm, so
Yeah.
whether you or a board member or administrator,
Is that something maybe we could bring up for conversation or propose a delegate to that at some point?
I think so, yeah.
okay. Anything else?
I had a question with the King Scott thing. The thought came to my mind that there are other properties that the school system has, and maybe that should be something that's in the consideration of moving some of them. Right now is a high time in the market, so to speak, and other than buildings. I mean, there's lots of
Yeah, land.
like
and-
vacant
and
land around.
spaces. So we did, back in '21, as he referenced, we did an audit of all the different properties. We'll go back and revisit that, but many of the land properties we own all revert back to the owner if we stop operating them or owning them. So there's no, because we were going through, again, rather than sell ACES, was there a piece of land we could sell or something along those lines? And ultimately, ACES was one of the very few properties, if the only, that didn't have a revert back to the owner. And a lot of it is forestry land, I think, and again, we're prohibited from logging on it, I believe. It was quite an interesting study.
Yeah, so then why are we keeping it? I mean, just,
We don't do anything with
Yeah.
it, and, again, there's a whole variety of pieces that we're talking about here, but.
Are you talking about the 2 40-acre parcels
well, those are,
that are,
yeah, there's two out on Long Rapids Road that come to mind immediately,
Yeah.
but
those aren't really ours. They're just like,
we get
the
to use
state
them.
holds the deed to them.
Oh, the state does?
And we are allowed to use the property for educational purposes. But we can't even like log it, so then we have to pay for our logging study and everything, and I would just as soon let it go back to the state rather than having it be our responsibility, which is the way the language is written in the agreement.
But yes, I mean, we have those files now together, and we share anything and anything that's relevant for the study.
Do we use any of these pieces of property for educational purposes?
That's
I know
what
that
I
was a,
Yeah.
that was a conversation that we had as of late, that, we wanted these opportunities for the youth, if we already have possession of the
Yeah.
forest or the grounds.
The ones out on Long Rapids years ago, when we had a forestry program, we'd go out there and once in a while take a tree down, but it was more just, site work, stuff like that, but that was many, many moons ago. So, other than that, yeah, it's been a long while.
But, yeah,
So they're of no value to us.
Behind Sunset, but
no.
we'd have to figure out if it's even buildable, because I know a lot of it is quite wet. But I don't know if it's,
There's a piece behind Sunset, you said?
there's acreage behind Sunset.
Yeah.
Acreage right there. But it is quite wet, so I don't even know if it would be buildable, really.
Would've been kinda nice to have this study before we just put millions of dollars into fixing all the buildings up.
That absolutely true. I wasn't here at that point, and the enrollment trend has been around since 1973, so I can't speak to that. And certainly, again, you hear me, closing buildings is not the goal of this. Fully in recognition of the amount of taxpayer support for those renovations. But we do have the hard truth that we are declining in enrollment, and we are a geographically very large school district. We run many buildings with small, number of students, and so that's why we're not saying this is a 2 to 3. This is a 10-year plan, and what does that look like? But absolutely agree.
It's gonna be really interesting to see where the study looks like in the end. I'm quite interested to see it.
Yeah, and it's non-binding, it's just to get ideas out there.
Anyone else cringe a little bit when he asks the areas of development?
Yes, where is that?
Yeah.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
West on 32 is there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Well,
That's right.
yeah, not for student growth, though, much, at least, homes or apartments or anything.
Dave, I had another question yet.
Yeah.
You have an update, or in your update, you talk about the AMA source stuff, correct?
Yeah, it was a couple
More
updates ago.
details and stuff
Yeah.
in there? Okay, then I won't.
Yes, I
That's
think
true.
maybe 2 or 3, I just said that we were working on this and that it was moving forward.
But I think AJ's probably talking about were you talking about the documents that Justin gave tonight? I mean, we have,
No, just,
more information.
well, why are we giving it to them was, I guess, or not giving it to them, but involving them was,
Yeah, I don't think I really, maybe I touched on that, but ultimately they can attract, different staff than we can. And they're kind of built to support the program and the staff. We call on them for a lot of our support, so having them,
just do it.
really doing it directly.
Okay. And then, cost-wise, how did that break out? Was it a relief for us, a burden for us?
To be determined, and so one of the big, they can service the other districts.
more easily than we can service the other districts, students from, if they end up coming. So right now, this is gonna primarily be Alpena Public Schools students, but as the program potentially grows, then, students from other districts may come. So that's in part why it makes sense for them, AMA, to oversee this program, because it crosses over multiple districts. The program is essentially students come into the SOAR room, spend the majority, an appropriate, as determined by the IEP, but the majority of their day in that classroom. And as they make progress, the goal is to get them back into the least restrictive environment. So they may start going out to art, music, gym, or, other opportunities to make their way back into the general education environment. So for an APS student, they're in the SOAR room, which is APS, and then they go into a music classroom, which is APS. That's just kind of a splitting the FTE based on the amount of time they're in the SOAR room and the amount of time that they're in an APS classroom. Gets more complicated if it's an Alcona student or an Atlanta student doing that same thing. But the ultimate goal is that they get back into the general education classroom, whether it's in Alpena or their home district.
Okay.
And so that's what we've been operating for the last 2 years, but all with APS and all in LOA.
There's more, I was just looking back through your superintendent updates. Actually, I didn't realize too, if I would just click on last week's update, you could see this week's update with the date, so. But on March 8th, there's, if you wanna go back and look, it was in the March 8th newsletter, or his update, where there's, information about the SOAR room partnership and, the letter that went out to.
Announcing it.
Yeah, the letter that went out, so. Just extra reading, March 8th.
Yeah. But it really is, a great partnership. It's a significant change between, what the relationship has been in the past, where, not a critique, but AMA's got a tough position. They've got a Class A district and then 3 districts that are, the size of some of our elementaries and very different needs. And, balancing that to provide support is difficult. But Mr. Glusing's doing a great job of reaching out to the districts. And, we've been pushing to get this done. And it's going to immediately benefit us, but then it will benefit the region as well.
With Emmanuel Lutheran opening a high school, are we working on getting a partnership with them for any of our programs, or?
I think they have a long way to go before they open a program. But, no. Yeah, I see that they want to take advantage of our sports and arts and all of that. When they're ready, we'll certainly meet with them, but it would have to make financial sense for us.
I think it's APS.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's the
Good.
notification about,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else from board members?
You said, are you making the call then for tomorrow?
I think that's what, we
We
just went
did.
out, yeah.
Is that for
Yep.
staff and students, or?
That's a blended message. So students are not coming tomorrow. And then we will communicate with staff on who shows up and everything. Correct. I read the message very quickly, so number one message is students are not coming in tomorrow. And then when we finish here, we'll work out the rest of the details.
Leave a box of cereal out for them, huh?
Yep. Sorry. But you have power, right?
You have power.
Okay, anything else? Okay, if not, we'll need a motion to go into closed session under Section 8A of the Open Meetings Act to meet regarding the superintendent's evaluation. And for those here, we don't take any action. This is just a quarterly update, so no action when we come back, but you're more than welcome to stick around, so.
And you don't have to leave because we're going into another room, so.
Okay, Eric Hansen made that motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Contract negotiation?
Contract negotiations, and I have it written down in here. Yeah, considering the purchase of a property, consulting with an
So we got a couple of choices. Do you want to sit in student desks or a little bit cramped in a tape conference room? Yeah, so well, we've got the pivot one, which is a little bit bigger, I think. So let's try that one, and then